Grandma.
Well, hi, come on in.
Thank you.
Would come by.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm so glad you come because there are a few things here that you all might want to know something about. So come on in and we'll have a tour.
Thank you, Grandma.
This roseback chair, these two roseback chairs came from Grandma Hotop's. And this little table, I think Grandma got it at maybe some antique dealer in Louisville, I'm not sure. And this vase, Tanty painted. And this picture was from Grandma Hotop's. And you notice so many of the old homes had the etchings, the papers, the black and white rather than colored pictures. I've noticed that in American homes, so many of them. And this piece, Mama picked up at Paris, Kentucky. It's a real nice piece.
That's Grandma Kate's.
Grandma Kate's.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And
is it called a Hepplewhite chest?
I think so. This is a Hepplewhite table, and but it has the fine inlay and the solid ends, which is a good thing for antiques. And American Orientals, and this one is an Oriental.
Beautiful stairwell, too.
I don't know what the symbols on the apron of that chest mean, if we ever find out. It's like a star and a crescent. Looks to me like a middle. Know whether there are any symbols in astrology that would be like that or not. And I've eaten some mighty good meals there. She would have the old-time meal. If you took a teaspoon of everything that she had on the table, you'd have a plate rounded up.
Now, Grandma Campbell lived in Campbellsville.
In Campbellsville. She was Dad's grandmother.
So you got to meet her.
She was a very, very sweet person, and you know Aunt Dee, and everybody says Aunt Dee is a whole lot like Grandma Campbell. Mm-hmm. She took care of all of her bachelor brothers and her husband, and she was a favorite of Dad's. And this picture, my son and his wife, Ella Mae, surprised me one Christmas with it. I had been visiting Khaki, and while I was away, she had a local artist come out and sketch that.
Kind of sneaky, aren't they?
So well, it was a nice way to sneak around. And she
nice gift.
Always also had note paper, and I've had a lot of fun using the note paper. And little table came from Abner Troutman, the old colored man who used to work for I suppose at one time he belonged to the Payne family. And he was crazy about walnut furniture. He called it Warnut. And he had a little cabin on Warfield Street. Had a path from the front door to the fireplace, and furniture just stacked up to the ceiling. And when he got in financial trouble, he needed some money, he could be persuaded to sell a piece. So that's the way Tanty got that piece from old Abner.
And Tanty is your sister.
Right.
Okay.
And Abner used to love to go back to the Paynes and clean their silver when he was a boy working for the Paynes. That was one of his jobs. And when he was an old man, he would sometimes go back there just to clean their silver. He thought that was a great honor. You might not be able to tell there.
Okay, you want to show us what you have at the fireplace?
Okay, the fireplace, this fender was bought at a Redmond sale over in LaRue County. And this fire set was a wedding gift to Mama and Papa. And the fire screen I painted. There was, at one time, that was the popular thing to do, to have a fire screen to cover up the soot and bricks. And the oval mirror, Tanty had bought that and had it gold bead. And these candlesticks came from St. James Church. They were on the altar, and Josephine Halbert, they were redoing the church, and Josephine asked Mama if she would like to have some the candlesticks. Said they couldn't sell them, but they would receive a gift. So that's the way Mama got those candlesticks.
And was the clock a gift?
And the clock was also a gift, a wedding gift of Mama and Papa's. I don't know the person who gave it. She didn't tell me that, but Papa's job, every Sunday night he would go around and wind the 8-day clocks, and that was one of them. Still runs beautifully. And this little Sheraton table, it was one of a banquet table that I got in Scott County from a dealer. It had been in a fire, and Papa refinished it. And instead of having the straight leaf there like the banquet table would, we thought I'd never use it as a banquet table, so he just fixed it so it could be used as a console table. But he did a right good job. He even had to read the legs, had to make some new legs, I think. Silk painting. Stephen, my grandson, brought me that from a trip to China when he graduated from college. And I think the frame on it is so appropriate. Looks like bamboo. The little oval frame with the floral picture I picked up at Glasgow, I believe. This chair bought at an antique place in Louisville. It's called Elizabethan gentleman's chair, but that was her favorite chair in the parlor at home. And Dr. English got the ladies' chair, which was a rocking chair. It was the match to this. And this table back here, another Sheraton table, but it is a little larger than the one on the other side of the fireplace. But when Papa was working at the mill, he was manager of the Hardin County Mill. He saw that at the Morris, I've forgotten the man's name, He was a black man, had a little second-hand store over across from the mill, and Papa had seen that table. It didn't have a leaf on it, but he admired it and bought it for Mama. And years later, Bittner, the refinisher and furniture maker in Louisville, refinished it. And the two cut glass vases, that one was my mother's. I don't know where she got that. This was one that Cousin Hulda, my mother's first cousin, had one at a raffle at the Turners. That's a German club in Louisville. And this little thing on the easel, my grandfather, C. Hotop, was a shoemaker. And this says, C. Hotop, compliments of C. Hotop, shoes, slippers, and rubbers, Elizabethtown, Kentucky. And I had it framed. I didn't realize that way back then they would have something like this over 100 years ago. And the whale oil lamp Mama had gotten at an antique store. And these,
yes,
back there, Aunt Alice painted that, the Catholic school. See, it has a design on it.
Want to turn it around the other side?
Miss Lena and Miss Stockett's house. Miss Stockett called it her prayer table. She had a Bible, a prayer book, an Episcopal prayer book, and a little cross on it. I put the marble top on it, and I had bought that from Miss Lena. I was living in Georgetown, and it's a fruit wood. This is just a little console table. It's a reproduction. Has a little inlay on it. And the lamp Sally Atkinson gave to us one Christmas. It's an old kerosene lamp. And this was a chair that Dante had picked up when she was living in Rushville, Indiana, and had it refinished. And this chair came from Georgetown. I think I got this in a colored person's house. So many of the old, pretty old antiques were given to the help, the colored people. And that's where antique dealers later found some of their best pieces, because the first owner wanted to get modern furniture, fruit up here, and there's some kind of fruit wood.
Was that Dante's chair?
And that was, Dante had picked that up. And this little table came from Northern Kentucky, pie crust table. It's a tilt top. And the picture above it, the picture frame, was one of 3 that came from Grandpa Hotop's. He had family portraits in them. And I just had a landscape put in them. It's identical. And had considered buying this one too.
Where did it come from?
Someplace in Tennessee, Murfreesboro, I believe. But it's rosewood. She was only 14 when that was taken. But she looked so much more mature than the
14.
Than the 14s of today. This bed Aunt Alice found on the street in Louisville, down on Jefferson Street, I believe, in front of an antique place. And she thought it was real pretty. Dad and I had just married, so she bought it and gave it to us. And this desk came from northern Kentucky. It's butternut, and it has a very fine line of inlay. And it was unusually high. So Bittner, the furniture maker in Louisville, had made this Windsor chair to go with it. And that has a fine line of inlay around there. And there's a secret drawer there, pigeonholes here. Can you see that?
Very
There's
pretty.
Nothing very secretive about that.
Well,
That's
it's
what they
beautiful.
call it in the movie.
Sure. That's beautiful.
And here, some of my grandchildren who married one summer. 3 of them married one summer. Handkerchiefs that must have been made by Grandma Hotop. They were in the trunk, and I had them framed. And would you like to see that how they were made?
That'd be fun.
They did it. She had another one started. And there's thread, 800 thread. Can you want me to how it was done? And I've been puzzled about how they'd get the thing off. This, of course, would have the linen center, but here are her little insertions that she was stitching on there. And this must have been
A choker?
that's what I need now to cut it to. The ladies used to wear that to keep their wrinkles from showing so much. And I've reached that place where I need to keep tie my
They knew beauty secrets even then, didn't they?
an antique place. It's Cherry. It was bought at an antique place in Louisville.
Okay. It was made at Bittner's.
Uh-huh.
Bittner's was a store in
It
Louisville.
was, they're still in business, I think. They're
Okay.
Furniture makers. They used to be considered, and I suppose still are considered,
The best.
among the best in the South. Especially when it's hot.
It's a beautiful rocker.
And it's walnut, but they're so nice and comfortable and cool in the summer. A lot better to sit on than upholstered furniture. Oh, and these Alice got at the Goodwill industry had a display at the Sealback Hotel, and for several years Aunt Alice lived at the Sealback. And this appealed to her, so she bought it for me, and we had it refinished. But they had put it up on legs to make kind of a highboy out of it. And there's an OG mirror above it. Gotten and from Mr. Antique dealer, Mr. Walker in Covington. And it has ornate inlay on it and a thin, pretty little top. It's my grandmother, Hotop's, and they married in 1859. So it has a little age on it, and it has leaves that go with it. It can be extended so it will seat 8 people comfortably. It just struck. Tanty picked that up in Williamstown. No, it was Indiana. It's a Seth Thomas. It doesn't have the date in it, but it has some age on it.
Clock, isn't it?
It's Plymouth Hollow, Connecticut. Chairs, oak chairs. Mama referred to them as hall chairs, I guess just because they stayed in our hall. But they must have gotten those when they married.
Okay.
That's one they started housekeeping with. And I've heard her say that one of the helms, and I don't know which lady it was, which helm family, but they had one just like it.
And then you have Granddaddy's chair in the back, the green chair.
Yes, this is Dad's chair that he had when he was, this was in the director's room in Richmond, the southern states. He was director on the board there for, I suppose, almost 10 years. And it has his name on the back. And when they were redecorating the director's room, they asked the directors if they would like to have their old chairs. So of course we wanted the chair. Touch is walnut, and it was made by my great uncle, by my grandmother Hotop's brother, who was a cabinet maker in Germany. And when he came to this country, he visited Grandma and Grandpa in E-Town, and I suppose he was making himself useful.
I need to come in.
But it's right. The walnut I thought was so pretty, but this has a door both sides. And Campbell, as he was the only one in the family who could read German, he got all of the correspondence from that was in the trunk at the time we broke up at Mama's, and he was telling an interesting story about the little village where this William Shore had come from. The Duke, he had to get permission to leave the village. And the reason for that, Campbell was puzzled about that, and he asked a German friend. And he said, well, that was old Germany, that the Duke looked after his subjects, and before he would give permission to let one of them go, if he were a cabinet maker or shoemaker, there had to be someone to take their place. He didn't want the village left without a cabinet maker, a tailor, or a shoemaker. And but I thought that was a little interesting story. I had never heard that before until Camel was here this time.
Good we have someone in the family that can read German, right? Can understand German.
Yeah.
Campbell
Was the
is
only
real
one.
good.
And these little things were all from the trunk.
And it has the peach seed in it that Papa
This
used to make.
Papa used to, after he retired, he, like so many men, had time on his hands, so he would make little key rings out of peach seeds and these other little things in here. This was a bracelet that belonged to Mama when she was a child. Grandpa Hotop had when he came from Germany. This is his watch, which was wound by a key. Now this isn't a key, but it was that type key. And this is the key to his shop. Kind of a large key. You couldn't carry it in your pocket very well, could you? This is Edelweiss. You've heard the song Edelweiss.
Mm-hmm.
That's a flower that grows in the Alps. And I had a friend from Switzerland who told me that when a young man gave a young lady some Edelweiss, it was almost like an engagement, because sometimes they had to risk their lives to get it. It grew in inaccessible places. The sideboard came from the Redmond family over in LaRue County, and it has cherry and mahogany and walnut in it, and real pretty crotch mahogany, and it has a canvas leaf there. The little tea set was painted by Aunt Alice, and this soup tureen was painted by Aunt Alice. And this, I don't know whether that was a wedding gift of Mama and Papa's, or if it came from Grandma Hotop's. And the little Demitas cups and saucers, Aunt Alice painted many of those. And the chocolate pot, she painted that. Plates above the dessert plates above the table. This is a water pitcher. It was the first type thermos, because it has a double wall in here. And Tanty remembers when they kept ice water in that. Grandma and Grandpa would keep ice water in this. And see, it had only one goblet. They didn't think about germs then, just getting a cold drink, I guess. And this is a card table that Tanty had found in Indiana. I had it refinished in Taylor County. A banana bowl that was, I suppose, a wedding gift of Mama and Papa's. And this is a gong that she used to call us to supper.
And
only when we were very far away, you could hear it louder.
the grandchildren love playing with it.
This mahogany table is an English breakfast table, and and it came from Walker's Antique in Covington. And it tilts. It's tilt top. You can lift it up.
It's beautiful.
So you can push it out of the way if you need it a little space. Came from Dad's family. I think he said that his great-grandparents bought it at a sale when they married. And it has...
Is this Campbell, the Campbells are...
They were Turners.
Turners, okay.
And it has the butterfly shelves up here that is right pretty. But it's cherry, and it's almost 8 feet high. Terry, Dad's brother, was running a hatchery out at Ballardsville, that's in Shelby County. And I don't know how the piece of furniture happened to be there, but we picked it up and brought it to Georgetown on a trailer one time and loaded it. Dad was always ingenious about lifting things, or when one person on a farm without any help, they have to improvise a lot of ways. But he had pipes, and he rolled the thing from the front porch through the hall and into the dining room. But it takes a big house to also.
Did that come from Grandma's?
No, this was bought, I think Tanty picked it up at an antique place. And this plaque, this chafing dish.
Tanty painted the plaque.
She painted the plaque. And this was Aunt Alice's chafing dish. And Anna had it silvered. Now, I think that, I don't know whether it was nickel or not originally, but when Anna had it, she had it resilvered, or had it silvered. See you. Oh, they're souvenir spoons, and Kathy had that holder made one time for them. I better go check. The Arabic bench. It has many kinds of wood in it, but years ago when we were living in Scott County, the boys and Dad and I were riding around in the hilly part of Scott County up near Sadeville one Sunday afternoon, and I spotted this bench on a porch of a little cottage, and I thought, oh, that is so pretty. Well, Dad wasn't too much in antiques, but we went up to the farmhouse, and it didn't mean much to them. It was an old rough piece of furniture, and $15 looked like a whole lot to them. So we loaded it up, or I don't remember about that. It was too big to put in the car. I guess we had to have a truck later. But I had it refinished, and it is a real pretty old bench, I think. It's, I had the cushion put on it because it had a rather hard seat. And it's comfortable enough with the cushion that you can take a nap on it.
Do you want to tell us about the pictures above the...
Back in the corner there, that wine bottle came from Grandpa Hotop's. And the little lunch basket, that tiny one there, and the one on this wall, I used to use, we would take our lunch to school. We lived close enough to school, we didn't take our lunch every day, but in bad weather, we would sometimes take our lunch. And the little brace piece there, Kathy and Larry had brought me from Europe. He had to go on business. Dow Chemical had sent him on business, and Kathy went along. And it's a coffee grinder. And the little brown pitcher is a Bennington pitcher. I remember my grandmother, Hotop, used to keep buttermilk in it. And the little coffee pot in the center, Mama and Papa brought from New Orleans, where they went on their honeymoon, to Grandma Hotop. She had admired the one that Aunt Beck Hill had. It was just like that. And so it's enamel and German silver. And Aunt Beck Hill kept the inn in E-Town, where Custer stayed for a while. And that little teapot with the reed handle is just a little cheapie that came from maybe the 10-cent store, I don't know.
Still pretty though.
And that odd-looking little pitcher-like thing, it pumps. You pump the thing up and down to make the whatever's inside come out. I just had rebottomed. It was, there were 2 straight chairs like this and 1 rocking chair, and they were in Grandma Hotop's kitchen. Out there just a few months. This neck desk length was my grandfather Hotop's. It's all brass and quite interesting.
He used to study by it or read by it?
Mm-hmm.
Did he used to read by it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.